How's it going, everybody? Welcome in to another episode of the Mavs Step Back Podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Trigg. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Drew Johnson. You can find both of us on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Dalton_Trigg and at Coach Drew33. Be sure to like, rate, and subscribe on all your favorite podcast platforms. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Leave us a bunch of likes and comments. And if you want to be entered for future giveaways, go to Mavs Step Back on Apple Podcasts and leave us a review there, and you'll automatically enter your name for a chance to win future giveaways. Guys, the Mavs, they have finally gotten their first win of these NBA Finals. It came way later than we thought it would. You know, the Mavs had their chances to win Game 2 in Boston. They had their chances to win Game 3 in Dallas. For several different reasons, that didn't happen, and they ended up falling into a 3-0 hole, a deficit that no team in NBA history has ever come back from. But going into Game 4, and we talked about this on the last pod, DJ, the hope was that they would bounce back and show some pride and, you know, show some of that resilience that we've seen from this team time and time again throughout this season. I know the numbers really, weren't in their favor because usually when teams go down 3-0, sometimes teams tend to give up. And, we saw that in the 2011 playoffs when the Mavs took on the two-time defending champion Los Angeles Lakers. They, the first three games were semi-close. They won all three, went up 3-0, and then the Lakers basically just gave up in Game 4, and the Mavs blew them out. The Mother's Day Massacre is what they call that one. So, this was the pre-Father's Day Massacre because the Mavs didn't just win Game 4. They came out and, for lack of a better term, it was an ass whooping. I mean, they came out and completely blew the Celtics off the floor. The final score of Game 4 was 122-84. Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving didn't have to play in the entire fourth quarter. The Celtics, Joe Mazzulla pulled his starters with like 3 or 4 minutes to go, or maybe even more than that to go in the third quarter. He finally had seen enough.
It was like midway through the third.
Yeah, midway through the third. That's how bad it was.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was a 38-point win, the third largest margin of victory in NBA Finals history. The Mavs held the Celtics amazing. The Celtics have been outstanding on offense all season, and the Mavs held the Celtics to 21 points in the first quarter, and you thought, man, that's really good. The Celtics are probably going to bounce back. They turned right back around and held the Celtics to 14 in the second quarter. So just complete and utter domination from the Mavs on both ends of the floor. Luka was heavily criticized by everybody, including us on this podcast, about his defense. He obviously took it to heart. He came out and played one of the best defensive games I have personally seen him play. He was smart. He was getting to his spots. He was going straight up. He wasn't hacking. Well, he did have a couple of hacking fouls, but for the most part, he was going straight up, had some good defensive plays on Tatum. It was just overall a great team performance. And what's encouraging about this one, DJ, is Luka didn't even have a good shooting game. Like, he shot 12 of 26 overall, which is okay. He shot 0 of 8 from 3. He didn't hit a 3. Kyrie was 1 of 6 from 3. Tim Hardaway, this is so funny to me. This is a side note that we'll get into a little bit later, but just to kind of give you an idea of what kind of night this was for the Mavs, Tim Hardaway Jr. became the third player in NBA Finals history with 5+ three-pointers made in a single quarter. That's what kind of game we were looking at. Dereck Lively II hit a three-pointer for the first time in his career.
People are so surprised at that.
I'm not.
We've been saying on here, and if you've watched any practice film, and if you've watched any film of him, like whenever he was in high school, you know that this guy is capable of shooting the basketball. He just hasn't. So, you heard it here first. The guy can shoot it. It's just a matter of when this was going to start happening. It was a matter of when he was going to get the green light. And I was really happy to see uh, that ball go through the net. And it was beautiful, too. It couldn't have been any better.
And it wasn't a garbage time kind of thing either. The Mavs were down one in the first quarter when Luka dished it to Lively in the corner, and he just confidently stepped into it, held the follow through, nothing but net. You could tell even like Jason Tatum and the rest of the Celtics were just like, what? But like you said, we knew that this was eventually going to happen for Lively. We didn't expect to see it in the finals, but man, I thought that moment so early on in the game kind of gave the Mavs a feeling of like, okay, yeah, we can do this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy that I have more confidence in Dereck Lively shooting threes than I do Maxi Kleba or Tim Hardaway Jr. But that's where we're at in this series. And Tim Hardaway Jr., all of his stuff, I know he's going to be in the history books now, and that's going to fuel some agendas or a big agenda for his dad, Tim Hardaway Sr. But that all happened in garbage time. But
Go get your star contract somewhere else.
yeah, right. Yeah.
Maybe it bolstered his trade stock. Listen, kudos to him, but he made all of his shots with zero pressure on him. His team was up 30. Okay. It means something. Okay. It means something whenever you're having to make shots with pressure, like Lively made his. And honestly, Kleber made one that was, I wouldn't call it a high pressure situation, but it was a good look under semi-pressured circumstances. But all of Hardaway's came in at a time when the game was already decided. So, congrats. They wrote you in the history books. And I don't mean to be a hater, but actually, you know what? I'm a hater. Fuck it.
Well, I'm still. I mean, good for him. I mean, there is a, and JJ Redick mentioned it on the broadcast for the game. There is, a chance where it's like maybe he finally broke out of his slump because he saw the ball go through the hoop. But Jason Kidd better not. If Tim Hardaway Jr. If Tim Hardaway Jr. gets any more significant run throughout these finals, it needs to be in the same situation like it was tonight, where it's out of reach and he gets to go in there and just play garbage time ball and
jack shots, because I mean it's what he's going to do no matter what. He's going to get in there and he's going to jack shots. He's going to play terrible defense. And I really hope to God that Jason Kidd was not fooled by the smoke screen of what was going on tonight in the fourth quarter, or third and fourth quarter rather.
I don't think he was. I think he learned his lesson from what happened in Game 3. And it's crazy, man. I mean, you look at what happened tonight. This is what we thought we were going to be getting from the Mavs in this series, and they were competitive in the previous two games. It was crazy that this Mavs team is as many offensive weapons as they have. As good as they were down the stretch of the regular season and through the first 3 rounds of the Western Conference playoffs. It was crazy that they didn't crack 100 points for 3 consecutive games. It was crazy. And, they finally broke through in a big way. I mean, what are some of your initial takeaways from this game specifically, and like how it could bring some momentum into Game 5 in Boston? Because I've got a couple of different takes here. I'll wait. I want to get your thoughts first, and then I'll roll over into some of the things I'm thinking.
Well, I'm looking at 2 main things here. Number one, you already mentioned it sort of, and it was that Luka and Kyrie, neither one of them had a particularly great shooting night. Granted, they did come out and they set the tone from the get-go. And they both had pretty decent nights just overall. But this game wasn't won by Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic, at least not alone. It was also won by their supporting cast. And that's so huge for the Mavericks because it opens up everything for everybody. If everyone on the floor is a threat, it opens up everything. And so that was a really encouraging aspect for me. And I think a lot of it had to do with just being almost in desperation mode. These guys knew that they had to do something. Otherwise, I mean, we've seen what it looks like whenever they rely on Luka and Kyrie alone. And yes, they are the best offensive backcourt in the history of the league, but it takes more than two players to win a championship. It just does. And so just to see this supporting cast do their thing, it was very encouraging. I was really encouraged by Dereck Lively. The three ball was awesome, but man, he made some big time plays on the glass. He was amazing on the glass. His fellow post player, who actually started tonight, Daniel Gafford, was excellent, I thought, on both ends of the floor. He also did a really good job on the glass. Both of those guys just absolutely dominated the paint. I thought that Josh Green gave us some good minutes. He had a few head-scratching plays. He always does, but I thought he gave us some really good minutes. I thought Derrick Jones looked pretty good. He looked a lot more comfortable tonight than he had in probably throughout the whole series, honestly. Dante Exum finally decided to show up.
Yeah.
I hope that is a continued thing. I hope that becomes a regularity because his ability to shoot the ball is tremendous. And also I noticed that whenever he is in the game and whenever he is allowed to handle the ball, the pace upticks. Like it's quicker. Everything is faster.
Yep.
And I really like the lineup. I really like a lineup with both him and Kyrie Irving in the game and playing Kyrie off ball because he's going to create a lot more transition opportunities for Kyrie. And as we all know, Kyrie Irving's one of the best players all time in transition. You can go look at the percentages. Numbers don't lie. The second thing that I was really impressed with was just our defensive fortitude. Our rotations were crisp. We weren't allowing straight line drives to get as deep in the paint on the initial penetration. That made things easier for us to recover. And we did a really good job of rotating on their, one more situations, actually getting out and contesting three-point shooters, running them off the line, forcing them to take the long contested twos that we've been talking about, forcing them to take contested twos in general. I thought that we did a really good job of making multiple efforts on that side of the floor. And again, I was really impressed by it, but can we do this consistently? And so far the answer is no, because we've only done this in 25% of the games this series. We have to build off of this. We have to have carryover. That is so important. We cannot be satisfied with just one win. And it's one thing to do this whenever the crowd is behind you. It's going to be a completely different beast whenever you have the Big Green Sea in Boston Gardens, screaming obscenities at you and throwing beer on you.
Yeah, you're right. It's going to be tough. But look, there's a couple of really encouraging things that I take away from this game. One, we're seeing how the Mavs can really benefit from Kristaps Porzingis' injury situation.
Yeah, he didn't play today. He was cleared. He didn't play today.
Yeah. He didn't play in Game 3. He was cleared for Game 4, but they said they were only going to use him in certain situations. He didn't play 1 minute in this game. And the Mavs, they completely dominated the paint. They dominated the boards. The Mavs won the rebounding battle 52-31. They won the points in the paint battle 60-26.
Excellent.
The Mavs, the 3-point shooting is kind of misleading because it shows the Mavs shot 40.5%, but that was inflated by Tim Hardaway Jr.'s garbage run in the fourth quarter.
What was it in the first 2.5 quarters? That's what it'll tell you.
I don't know the exact number, but I'm they were right there with the Celtics around 30, somewhere between 32 to 34% shooting from three. So that's a positive that I take away from this. It's like, yeah, the Celtics didn't shoot that great from three, but neither did the Mavs until that flurry in the fourth quarter when the game was already out of reach. Luka was 0 of 8. Kyrie was 1 of 6. They were just dominating down low. Lively, he was amazing. He became the first. What was that stat I saw? Hold on just a second. Lively became the first rookie since Magic Johnson, I believe, to have multiple double doubles in the NBA Finals.
He's in good company.
I think that's what that was. Let me see here. I don't want to. I don't want to lie to y'all. Ah. Well, anyway, um, the 48-point lead that the Mavs had, and they ended up winning by 38. They were up by 48 at one point. Was the largest in the finals in at least 50 years.
Wow.
That is how crazy that game was.
What a response.
I can't find that stat on Dereck Lively. I guess it got deleted by somebody, but I believe that's correct. He's the first rookie to have multiple double doubles in the NBA Finals since Magic Johnson, which is absolutely unbelievable. So Dereck Lively, he was amazing in Game 3 too. He was the big reason. He kind of sparked their comeback in Game 3. So he's come alive. He looks more comfortable. Gafford, his numbers weren't eye-popping, but he still had a big impact on the game. He threw down a couple of big lobs and he altered some shots and was slamming the floor and yelling. I mean, it was just, the energy was just amazing. And like you said, Derrick Jones Jr., he was playing more within himself.
Mm-hmm.
PJ Washington didn't score a lot of points, but he hit 2 of his 3 threes and played excellent defense throughout the night. He started the game off kind of shaky. He had a couple of silly turnovers, but overall he was fine. So I look at all this, and I know it was a crazy blowout win, but I just didn't see a lot of stuff that happened in this game where I was like, oh yeah, that's not going to be sustainable going into Game 5. Everything they did is sustainable in my opinion. The way they played defense and paid attention to detail, this is what we saw from the Mavs in the previous playoff series. This is the kind of defense they played. And more times than not, it worked out well for them. Now, obviously, this is a different animal because, you went down 3-0 and now it's 3-1. And, you're going to have to beat a historic Boston Celtics team 4 times in a row to make history and win a title. But there's something to be said for giving Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving and the rest of these guys a little bit of life. Because instead of stomping them out, now they got one. And they didn't just squeak by and get one. They dominated. They dominated the best team in basketball to the point where the coach said, all right, we're just going to sit my main guys for the last quarter and a half. So I look at that, and I give the Mavs a fighting chance going into Game 5. It's gonna be tough.
Yeah,
it's gonna be really, really tough to beat the Celtics in Boston. But I think this game, in particular, took a lot of weight off of several guys' shoulders, and especially Kyrie Irving, because he hadn't beaten the Celtics in 13 tries. He hadn't beaten the Celtics since he had stepped, when he stomped on Lucky at center court when he was with the Nets like 2 or 3 years ago, whatever it was. So 13 consecutive losses to the Celtics out the window. He didn't play the best game by his standards, I thought. He has another level he can get to still. I don't know. Anything can happen when you have the best player in the series, and Luka Doncic certainly played like the best player in the series in Game 4. And meanwhile, on the other side, and this had a lot to do with the Mavs' defensive intensity, but the dynamic duo of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, Luka outscored the duo combined by 4 points. Jason Tatum led the Celtics with 15 points, only shot 4 of 10 overall. He was a negative 33.
God.
He's the first player to have multiple NBA Finals games of at least negative 30 or worse. Uh, so that was a crazy stat I saw tonight. He was locked up, and Jaylen Brown was the same way. As good as Jaylen Brown has been, I thought if they had won tonight, he would have been Finals MVP. And that, it still might be the case before this is said and done. But he only had 10 points, only 2 assists, 1 rebound, and he was held to 3 of 12 shooting from the field in 27 minutes. So the Mavs, they did a great job. I mean, they locked up the Celtics' main guys. Drew Holiday went 4 of 10. Dereck White 2 of 8. I mean,
That's crazy. He's
they
also hurt. Something's happened to his leg.
right, yeah, he collided with Luka and he hurt his thigh or something. I don't remember when. I think was that in the that was in the third quarter, I think.
Early in the third.
Yeah, early in the third when Dereck White got dinged up. So we'll see how that carries over into the next game. But yeah, man, it's just across the board a great effort. We've talked about Luka and Kyrie and these other guys. I really think the biggest takeaway for me is Dante Exum coming back to life, because he was a huge part of the team's end of the regular season run to get into the 5th seed and avoid the play-in, and they were playing some of their best basketball. And then he just disappeared in the playoffs for the first 3 rounds. And we've seen it at times. He can be out of control in transition. But when he plays fast yet under control, this is a completely different Mavs team. It gets other players open. He's more confident getting to the rim. His 3-point shot, there's so much attention on Luka and Kyrie that he's going to end up getting a wide open 3 or 2, and I believe he can hit them too. I mean, he shot nearly 50% from 3 this season, so he can do it. And I think he could be an X factor if the Mavs are going to continue to, extend this series even further than what they have so far. All right, DJ, before we go any further with this pod, I want to take a quick break and tell all of our awesome listeners about Prize Picks. If they listen regularly, you've already heard this before, but Prize Picks, the #1 daily fantasy sports app. You can go on there and pick the overs and unders for all of your favorite players, NBA, WNBA, football's coming up. Lots of different things you can do on that app. If you love daily fantasy sports, you need to download the app and give it a try. And use our promo code STEPBACK, all one word, to get up to $100 matched on your first deposit. So, for example, if you download the app and you create your account and you deposit $100 and you use our promo code STEPBACK, you will have $200 in your account to play around with however you choose to. So be sure to do that. You have at least one more NBA Finals game to do that for. So be sure to go take advantage and, again, use that promo code STEPBACK to get up to $100 matched on your first deposit. DJ, we've pretty much talked about all of the key parts of what happened in Game 4. I've talked about some of the positives that I think can be carried over into Game 5. Most notably, Luka and Kyrie not shooting as well as they could have from 3. Dante Exum picking things up. Even stuff like Dereck Lively continuing to build good games, consecutive good games, and building confidence after he was a non-factor in the first 2 games of this series. The questionable KP health, all that stuff factors into it, and I think momentum is kind of on the Mavs side after what we just witnessed in Game 4. But like we said, it is going to be a very hard task to go into TD Garden with as loud as that crowd is. I'm pretty sure they ruptured one of my eardrums when I was there for Game 2. It's going to be crazy. But Kyrie, he's finally got the weight lifted off of his shoulders. After 13 consecutive losses, he finally beat the Celtics, and now the Mavs go back for a Game 5 with their season still alive. And, I don't think they played as good as they could have offensively, the stars at least, and some of the other role players, than what they could have in game four. And yet they still won in blowout fashion. So I guess where I'm going with this, DJ, before we take off for this pod, what are your predictions? We'll do what we did the last game. I mean, what do you hope happens? What do you think happens? Because the Celtics better not let the Mavs get another one. They better not let the Mavs get Game 5 in Boston with Game 6 coming back to American Airlines Center.
Yeah, so we'll go for my hopes and dreams first. So I hope that we are just as dominant in the paint as we were this game. And, we were able to be absolutely dominant in the paint without our stars just putting up astronomical numbers. I hope we're also able to continue to dominate the glass, because I think that those two things kind of feed off of each other, at least offensively speaking. And I think that I said it earlier, and it probably left some people scratching their heads. The goal is not to outshoot the Celtics. The goal is to outscore the Celtics, and we do that by getting as many high percentage opportunities as possible. And what higher percentage opportunity are you going to get than Dereck Lively or Daniel Gafford slamming it down someone's throat? So I think that those two are going to be extremely key to this moving forward. And God help the Celtics if Luka and Kyrie get going from beyond the arc. I think those are my main three keys, really, is points in the paint, carrying over our defensive effort, and that's the defensive effort portion. It's not really anything that's like left up to chance. Like, you don't know if you're going to shoot the ball well from game to game. You just don't. But one thing you can always hang your hat on, and we have, is defensive effort and intensity. You can bring that every single game. Nothing should impact it. That is a you problem as a player and as a team. And they brought it tonight in a way that they haven't brought it in the whole series. This is the level of defensive, not just effort, but attention to detail that we haven't seen since the Western Conference Finals.
Yep.
So it took a little while for it to get going again, but if they can carry that over and do the other things that I just said, we have a really, really good chance. Now, what do I think is going to happen?
Hey, your hopes and dreams section of it, yeah, you're 1-0 so far in this segment we started last last pod. You had your hopes and dreams versus what you thought was going to happen. So, just go with what your gut's telling you is going to happen, even if it's
My
not.
gut was wrong last game. My gut was wrong, and my wife was right. My wife actually told me this morning we're going to win today, and I was like, oh. But she was correct, and I was wrong. And after we won, she handed me Zoe's pacifier and looked me dead in the eye. And she's like, "I told you so." So they love doing that. But what I think is going to happen, Dallas don't hate me. I think that it's just too much to deal with at TD Garden. I think that you're going to see Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Well, probably not Jason Tatum, but Jaylen Brown. He's going to come out and remind everybody of who he is, because he had a really uncharacteristic showing tonight. I think that the Celtics will shoot the ball better at home. I think it'll be an extremely close game. But ultimately, I don't know. I think I'm gonna leave it at this. I think it's going to be extremely close. And
I agree
whenever
with
a
that.
game is that close, it's hard to call. It's hard to pick who's gonna come out on top, because literally everything hinges on each possession. So, I think it'll be extremely close. We're not going to run away with it, but they're not going to run away with it either. And it's going to come down to the final 2 to 3 minutes. And Luka Doncic better damn well not foul out.
Yeah.
That's, I
And
mean,
if he plays defense from the start the way he did in game 4, he won't have to worry about that. It's the fouls where you get beat on a blow by and you do a take foul, so it's not an easy layup. Those kind of fouls early in the game, that's what gets you in trouble with that later in the game, because you never know what a ref is going to call in those bang bang situations. So that's the biggest thing. And if he plays like he did in game 4, the Mavs will have a chance to win game 5.
One more key. Luka Doncic kept his mouth shut this game. I know
Absolutely.
there wasn't that much to complain about because we were just whooping that ass, so to speak, all game.
That's
But
exactly what it was.
but still, I hope that carries over too. Like, someone needs to lock that dude's mouth shut and throw away the key for at least another week. Because, I mean, I think that when he is allowed to not worry so much about things he can't control and he's able to focus more on what he can control. And while his shot really wasn't falling tonight, he did everything else the right way. He did a great job of getting to the paint, getting right to the rim and finishing with those little floaters, setting his teammates up. He did a lot of good stuff on both ends of the floor. And I think that was largely because that's what he was focused on rather than the officiating.
Yeah. Well, my hopes and dreams, obviously, I would love for this dominant performance to carry over to the road and have consecutive dominant performances, but that's not realistic.
At Boston, that'd be crazy. If we beat them by 40 at Boston, the world might implode.
Gonna start getting real delusional up in here real quick.
Yeah, it's gonna get wild.
But I'm with you on the game being close. I think when a team as good as the Celtics gets spanked as hard as they did in this one, I think it's pretty much a given that they're going to come back and respond in a big way in the next game, playing in front of their home crowd. So I think the Mavs are going to have to. And I mean, again, the Mavs are the ones facing elimination. So there's going to be a level of desperation there on their end again. So it's going to be kind of like, the two immovable, or what do they call that thing about the unstoppable force meets
it's an immovable object.
Object. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how that dynamic plays out, because obviously the Celtics are going to have a higher level of aggression and want to bounce back from being embarrassed the way they were in game 4. But then you have the Mavs, who are still fighting for their lives, literally. Well, not their literal lives, but their playoff lives. Like, their season is on the line. And they've been a good road team all year. They've been a good road team throughout the postseason up until these finals. So I don't know. We'll see. I think there's potential for another Mavs win. And, I would like for it to be a blowout, but I think it will be close. What I think happens, I'm going with the Mavs again. I think they found something at the end of game 3 that helped them almost come completely back from a 21-point fourth quarter deficit. And I think they would have completed that comeback if Luka hadn't fouled out in the last 3 minutes. And then I think they carried over what they found in game 3 over to game 4. And, we saw what happened when they put together a consistent defensive effort. So offensively, I mean, I know defensively you can't guard perfectly forever on this Celtics team because they're too good. But offensively, I think the Mavs have figured out something. And especially if KP isn't going to play, or if he does play and he's not 100%, I really think the Mavs have figured out something. And Lively, I said this earlier tonight. If y'all follow me on Twitter, y'all probably saw it. But no matter what happens from this point forward, DJ, I'm taking something from this series with what I've seen from Dereck Lively in these last two games. He has been incredible all season. He has not been your typical rookie. He is mature beyond his years. He's only 20 years old, and he's shown he can do everything. And tonight was kind of like that flash of like, this is what Lively could this could be the final version of Lively when he gets done developing, hitting three pointers off of drives and kicks, kind of spreading the floor like what we always hope Maxi Kleba does. So that's one thing I'm going to take away from this series, no matter what happens from here going forward. Lively has the potential. We talk about the Mavs potentially adding a third star going forward. Lively's going to be that third star, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
That's how good he is. And I think a lot of people, like non-Mavs people, think, oh yeah, high energy guy, he's a pretty good player. I don't think people fully realize just how good he is. I think he is going to be a star in this league. And I think he's going to be the Mavs' third star. I think with Kyrie aging in a season, maybe by the end of next season or going into the year after that, Lively could be the Mavs' second star behind Luka. So that's how much respect I have for him and what he's done this season, fighting through adversity. I mean, he losing his mother, 20 years old. He has just been unbelievable. And he very much looked like a rookie in the first two games of these NBA Finals, but he learned from those experiences, just like he's learned from every other failure he's had, throughout the first year of his career, and he comes back stronger every single time. So we'll see. I mean, Lively really looks like he's found something specifically in these last two games, and we'll see if he can take that on the road and try to get some redemption in Boston based on how he played in those first two games. So again, my heart wants to see another blowout. I don't think it's going to be that. I think it's going to be closer. I think the Celtics are going to shoot better. But I really think the Mavs can win this game. And like I said, DJ, the Celtics better not let that happen, because if they do, and it's a 3-2 series going back to Dallas, I think this thing is going to go to Game 7. And then at that point, all bets are off. Anything can happen.
It's anybody's at that point. You said something about, the Mavs finding something offensively. I think they rediscovered what they knew all along, and that's that whenever you get to the paint, good things happen. In the first two games, the first game specifically, we settled way too often. We did not get deep into the paint. We did not get to the rim, and
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I just got a text that was way out of bounds that I can't say on this podcast, but continue with. I'm sorry, I couldn't hold my laughter. I'm going to screenshot it and send it to you.
I was about to say, what?
Oh God, it's so bad. I can't. It's funny, but it's not something I can say on the pods. But anyway, go ahead.
Anyway, they rediscovered what they knew all along, and that's that whenever you get to the paint, good things happen. And lo and behold, whenever we start getting to the paint more, straight up, as far as penetration is concerned, wouldn't you know that our post players improve, their stats improve, their numbers improve. Lively isn't the only post player on this team that's having a really good or had a really good game today. Daniel Gafford was also excellent. And I think I really think a lot of that comes from the shift in focus. We're not so focused on perimeter jumpers or mid-range jumpers. What's happening is, the Celtics, they really want to stick to that dunker spot lob. You're killing me, man. You're absolutely killing me. I'm just going to look at this right now.
I can't help it.
Oh, Jesus.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, God.
We're
going to lose just because of that. That's awful.
No, I can't. I can't. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It's
We
late.
can't say that, Dalton. We can't
I'm
say
not,
that. We can't.
I'll say this. It had something to do with Bob, with Bob Cousy, and I just can't. I can't. All right. I got
That's
to
as
collect.
far as it's going to go.
I've
We're
never
not
had
going to.
I've never had a moment like that where I just like can't keep it together. But it was so
That
shocking.
is so bad. Oh,
Woo! Oh my god.
I
What a
feel
night.
dirty.
Anyway. All right. I'm good. I'm good.
Anyway, paint good, rim good, get inside. It's all good.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what we figured out, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, look, another thing that you have to wonder about this series is because the Mavs started to have more momentum offensively toward the end of game 3. It's kind of like they figured out, okay, if we just put our heads down and we're determined to get in the paint, uh, you know, Luka tonight, he was 0 of 8 from 3, but he was like, what, 12 of 18 inside the 3-point line?
Mm-hmm.
When he makes up his mind that he's just going to dominate inside, there's really nothing anybody can do.
He is so tough whenever he's getting to the rim because he just bounces people off of him and he just floats it up there and it's cash every time. Like that is such an effective, just way of getting to the rim. And it really just makes him semi unguardable, especially if you don't have the weight behind you to take those hits, which
Yeah.
generally speaking, whoever's guarding him is not big enough to take the hits from him because the guy is extremely strong and he's pretty heavy. So, he's a shot from the shoulder from him is, I mean, it's pretty significant. And we see that over and over again whenever he decides to be aggressive and get to the rim and not settle. And I
Yeah.
think that's going to be a major key for him is to continue to attack the rim because what's going to happen is they're going to bring that second defender who is supposed to be taking away the lob. They're going to bring that over. And we already saw that a couple of times tonight. Maybe not necessarily with Luka. I'm pretty sure we saw it once with Kyrie where someone came over and helped off and Kyrie threw it over the top for a lob to Dereck Lively. I think that was who it was. I don't know. I've watched a lot of basketball today, so it's all kind of running
No,
together.
no,
But
no. That.
I really think that's
I don't know if you saw it earlier when we were talking. I put that that guy's tweet up while we were doing our opening segments there. But history is going to be made one way or the other in this series. Either a team's going to come back from being down 3-0, or a team is going to win the NBA Finals after losing by 38 points in one of the finals games. Neither thing has happened in NBA history. So one way or the other, history is going to be made. And I am really hoping that, it's the history that favors the Mavs because,
yes.
If the basketball gods allow the Mavs to come back from a 3-0 deficit in the NBA Finals to win a title, all is forgiven for 2006, for the
2007.
for the turd sandwich that followed 2006 in 2007 against the Golden State Warriors. Oh God, it was so bad. So all will be forgiven if that happens. And look, there's just something about having Luka Doncic on your team. I know he's not a perfect player. I know he has his moments, like we saw in game 3, and he got scrutinized for it. And he's not a perfect player, but there's something about having him on your team. You never feel like you're out of it. You never feel like you're out of it. I mean, he instills so much belief in his teammates and in the fan base and everything. He's the best player in this series. And when you have the best player in a series, you have a chance to win on every given night. And he's the best, statistically, average wise, and it may have gone down after tonight because he didn't have to play in the fourth quarter. But going into game 4 tonight, he was statistically the best player in elimination game situations in NBA history. Uh, I mean, when his back is against the wall, you get the best basketball from Luka Doncic, and now he's going to be facing elimination the rest of the way. So
Hopefully, it's
we'll,
just an all-time run. I mean, that's what it's going to take.
but
But
I think, look, they're capable. They're capable of doing it. They've got to find it. Not every game is going to be like what we saw tonight. Obviously, I mean, things are going to get tight, and it's going to come down to how the Mavs respond in those tight situations. Because so far this series, when it's been tight, it's been Boston that's come out on top. So we'll see how it goes. I fully believe that the Mavs are capable of going into Boston and getting a game 5. Kyrie Irving told them that he'd be back for game 5. And sure enough, here they come to Boston Monday night. It'll be game 5. And look, a small part of this, and we'll take off after I say this because I know we've been rambling for a while now, but a small thing that kind of caught my eye, and I'm sure it caught the Mavs' eye too. I'm sure it ended up being some sort of bulletin board material. After game 3, you could tell that Celtics players and their coach Joe Mazzulla and their fan base, they said all the right things in the press conferences, like, oh well, job's not finished yet, and we haven't won it yet, and all that stuff. But the way they acted after game 3, they thought they had already won this championship. And that's how they came into game 4. They thought the Mavs were just going to roll over and let them take it on their home floor, I guess. And it didn't happen. And now I'm not saying the Mavs are going to come back and win this series, but now the Celtics have messed around and given the Mavs some major life, because it's not just a win. It's a complete embarrassing blowout, like 38 points.
It was their worst loss of the season. I'm pretty sure.
38-point loss in the NBA Finals? What? That's crazy. That's crazy. And now you've given this team some confidence going back to Boston. And I'm just saying, the season might be over after Monday night, but the Celtics better hope it's over by Monday night, because if they give the Mavs game 5, if they let the Mavs come into Boston and win game 5, I'm telling you, DJ, this series is going to go to a game 7, because the Mavs are 100% going to win game 6 at home if they win game 5. And then we're going to have a winner-take-all game 7 for the NBA Finals. I'm telling you, that's how it's going to go down if the Mavs can take care of business and find a way to win in Boston on Monday. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. We're going to take off now, go get some much-needed sleep. I still haven't fully recovered from my trip. I'm a little delirious. I want to apologize because that like I said, normally if I get text or stuff like during a pod, I can control myself, but it was such an appalling thing for me to read that I just couldn't control it, and I had to laugh there. But it's late and I'm not editing it out, so it is what it is. You get the full authentic experience here at Mavs Step Back Podcast. So guys, we appreciate it. Be sure to go like, rate, and subscribe on all your favorite podcast platforms. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. We're continuously growing, and we love to interact with y'all. Whether it's y'all liking our stuff, commenting, and us having conversations there, whatever the case may be, we enjoy it. Keep doing it. Thanks, guys. Y'all have a great one. We will see y'all Monday night. No matter what happens, we will be here, but hopefully the Mavs can find a way to force a game 6 in Dallas. We'll see you.